Yesterday we had conversations with eyewitnesses to the unspeakable nightmares that have happened on the ground over the past 5 days in Israel. Today's focus is on how do we make sense of it, and primarily how do we make sense of it with our family members, and especially our younger family members. And so we're very fortunate to have with us not one, but two experts in child and family therapy and support and emotional health, who I know personally and trust deeply. One is Elaine Fisher, a child psychologist in Israel, and the other is Amy Weinberger, a child therapist who lived most of her life here in Sarasota, is now in Costa Rica speaking to us, but knows our community very, very well. And so between the two of them, they can address both the emotional experience of making sense of this from the Israeli half of the Jewish people, and also locally how we navigate with our children and the unintended pressures that this and stress and confusion and horror, nightmares that this creates for our family members. So we'll start with Elaine Fisher, who's in Israel, and who will describe to us kind of the mental health situation in Israel and her perspectives and insights for us. Elaine, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I have to admit that I was deeply touched when Shep invited me to join your meeting, and I just wanted to start off probably in an unexpected way to you guys, because I think that paradoxically it's more difficult for you being so far away than for us when we're here and we're trying to make sense of an impossible situation. This is one of the most terrible weeks that Israel has ever had to go through. But what's happened in Israel is that the level of volunteering that started since Saturday is unprecedented. I mean, you guys have probably been following what's been going on in Israel in the last 9 months, which has been terrible. It's with all the different factions and the infighting and everything that's going. It was instantly put aside on Saturday. I can tell you from the perspective of mental health professionals, there are 50 different groups, and they're growing all the time, of professionals that are volunteering all over the country to try and help people from around Gaza, going up north now as well. I mean, to such a degree that there's more mental health professionals at any given point in Israel than people that actually need to talk to us, because what's happening is that the people that have been taken out of their homes, they're all over the country now. They're in Eilat, they're by Yam HaMelach, the Dead Sea, they're in Ma'aleh HaChamisha, they're all over the country, and they focused on survival. There's certain issues that they're dealing with, but they're not at a point to a very large degree that they want to sit down and talk to a mental health professional. So you've got all of these psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists wandering around the community and just looking for people to talk to. Okay, and that part of it will come up. Soldiers, the mental health professionals that are talking to soldiers and talking to all the different people that were doing different jobs, that were taking part in all the different perspectives of the action since Saturday. But at this point in time, people are still on survival mode. And one of the things that we're seeing is how incredibly resilient people are. like what's happening. I'll just give you a picture of what's happening in Ma'aleh HaMisha, which that's where people from Zikim were taken there when they had to leave their homes. The children are playing in the grass. People are looking after their children. Family members are all over the place. Some are fighting. Some people are dealing with loss. Some people are dealing with uncertainty. There's a ton of stuff going on. But at this point in time, people are just getting on with everyday living. The amount of food, I mean, you know, this thing with whatever event happens around Jews is the first thing that you do is you get food. You cannot believe people are going around with carloads, okay, all over the place, to people that have been taken out of their homes, to the soldiers that are fighting. I mean, like, we're getting videos now saying, okay, do you mind stopping? Because we can't continue. Now we're getting to a point of waste. So and one of the things that we know about trauma is that, especially in an ongoing trauma, the one thing that is really important is to find something to do. And you guys are very far away. So what do you do? How can you help? And that's why I'm being 100% sincere. And I think that there are aspects that are way more difficult for you, because, you know, you can't send food, right? It's becomes a bit complicated. Oh, please don't. I mean, there's just too much, right? But so the one thing is like is what do you do? And the other thing is, in Israel, we at this point amongst ourselves, we don't have a problem of people. We're in a supportive framework. And what I was hearing from you is that what you're worried about with your kids is that they are not. They are now going to be exposed to all kinds of comments, and okay, so how do you deal with that? So that's my 2 cents at this point in time. I don't know if you've got any questions, or you guys run the meeting the way that you would like to run it. But anybody that wants to share any thoughts or questions and stuff, I'm here.
So then, Amy, why don't you offer your overview, and then we'll take questions and discussion for both of you.
Yes, hi. Hello, Sarasota. It is always, you found me. Yes, I am down in Costa Rica. As a mental health youth advisor to many teens, and as a youth mental health first aid national instructor, I come to you today to turn our focus for the care of Israel to the care for children, tweens, and teens. So this is not business as usual. And we do not have all the answers, but there are some things that we do know. And one question might be, is how young is too young to have conversations about what's happening? And the answer to that, and this comes from our Jewish Education Project, and it comes from, you know, many years of child development, is if you're the grandparent and the parent, or the aunties and the uncles, and your young child can talk, then they can have a conversation. Children know when adults are upset. I'm upset. I'm very upset. My stomach aches. I have to force myself to eat because I need to stay healthy for the rest of my family and for my community, right? Like, we have to stay present, so we have to care for ourselves. So let them know that you're sad, and use words that they understand. Sadness passes like happiness passes, and sadness comes along like happiness comes along. And it's really important that they can say, I feel sad in this moment. Or that you say that, and they can say, I feel that too, mommy. You know, I love you, right? And then kids who can talk, but unable to read fluently, they'll be getting information from other adults at schools or in parks, or if you have the news on at home, when they're home, turn that off, because that's upsetting. Whether they're paying attention to it directly, there's an indirectness to it. So, because they're getting information from adults, you get to monitor the conversation, right? And then there are kids who, like by third grade, they've already learned to read, and now they're reading to learn. They're going to get information from everywhere, just like they would on any topic, right? And so we have to frame and reframe what they're bringing home to us, right? And also perhaps limit the information. This may be the moment where there is the opportunity to talk about the TikTok and the Instagram and how we limit that so that our kids don't get into trauma scrolling, right? We're into trauma scrolling ourselves, so how can we limit it for ourselves, right? And then there are questions that come up from young children all over the world when all crises come up, and that question is, am I safe? Right? Am I safe? And answers to those is going to differ, because if you're living in Israel, if you have children in Israel, if you have people you know who are serving in the army or who are flying to Israel, we all wish them safety, right? But it's hard to tell a young person that they're completely safe, but they're relying on you. And if you can tell them, yes, honey, you're safe with me, that is actually enough. So when we think about safety, and when a young person thinks about safety, it's very different, because we have all these other influences coming on, right? And we know other things. So that's really important. You know your kids, you know your grandchildren and your nieces and nephews, and an answer is, you know what, honey, we are doing everything to protect ourselves, and the Israeli IDF is doing everything to protect people, and that answer can be enough. That can be enough. If you're doing the parenting thing directly and you're getting information home, there are two ways to maybe approach something. It's called set it up or be ready to clean it up. And what that means is, if you're choosing not to tell or discuss these conversations in your home, that's fine. Just understand that you also have to be ready to clean it up and be ready for those shares that come into the home. And so frame it up front is another way to think about it, or you'll wind up cleaning it up on the back end. And kids do know, they will know, and they will have profound questions. 1, as humans; 2, as Jewish people; 3, as a student. So we have several different populations. We have children in day schools, in supplementary Jewish schools. We have children who are in public, private, charter, and homeschool and religious school settings. And each situation is going to be a little bit different, right? Because security and way adults talk are a little bit different. So I wanted to make sure that those kind of conversations are useful to you. The other is about boundary holding, and that's regarding social media. So this is that moment where you really get to, you're not punishing anyone, you're just having boundaries. I'm choosing not to trauma scroll, although I do notice myself, I'll get into it, right? And they're like, okay, whoa, right? So we can be witnesses, and we can do things other than watching videos to witness it, right? And my colleague is very true. What the Israeli citizens are experiencing and what diaspora Jews are experiencing are different. And that's what's so important, and that's what's so hard for us. There's also something called call it, name it. And that is about, sometimes big scary feelings can really become monstrous inside of us. So you want to create that space so that your children can call out what they're feeling physically or mentally, if they have the language, and for you to give that space to take it in. You don't have to fix anything. You can be, oh, wow, honey, thank you for sharing that. And sometimes a child will create or problem solve themselves just by being able to talk, so that they know you're listening. And when you're listening, this is not part of your listening apparatus. And if you're wearing your Apple Watch, That's not part of your listening. This is the listening, right? Like really being very present for that moment. It may last a minute, it may last 30 minutes. So you want to make sure you're giving that space. So what that is, you give the kids chances to name what they are feeling. And whatever the questions are, you can take it at face value. There's one more set of, there's some factual information that you can give older teens regarding Operation Iron Swords, and even middle schools and an older, fourth, fifth grader. And we do know things about security, and between the US and Israel. We do know that this country as a government statement is standing with Israel. We know that for a fact. You can use that language. We know that our president is talking to the prime minister of Israel. We know that. This is a fact. This is not something that's political or disputable. These are security things that are actually happening that help young people know that adults are doing something, right? That's really important because they're relying on us. We also know that military aid is getting to Israel now, left from Norfolk, Virginia, right? The Eisenhower left from Norfolk, Virginia, my actual hometown. And you can, and that's enough of it. That's enough information. And if kids have more questions, they'll ask if you give them that information. There are two kinds of teaching to think about when you're having conversations with an older person, an older child, a teen or tween. And that is the what of teaching, like what you're teaching. That could be the security information or the facts of, what is Gaza? Where is Gaza? Who is Hamas? Where is Hamas? Who is Israel? That's the what of teaching. And then that emotional, social aspect. They're very, very different. And the other thing that's going to occur is teens who have been to Israel are going to ask different questions than those teens who have not been to Israel, or to someone who has no clue where Israel might even be. So, know that audience. There are three things that you can ask a young person. What do you know? What do you want to know? And what do you think you know? And those are not, and then those three questions are not too invasive. And it's helpful because it just kind of sets a tone. So that's the information I wanted to pass on to you in having conversations with children, tweens, and teens. So please ask questions. I do have something to tell you about what you can do in Sarasota County if a child or if a teen encounters a piece of curriculum from Prager University. You may or may not know about Prager University, but it's typically very right leaning, like hard leaning. And there was an incident that just occurred at Sarasota High School. I was notified of it. A history teacher, and I'm a retired history teacher. So I was like, So a history teacher at Sarasota High School showed Prager University video, and I called Tom Edwards immediately because one, he's a personal friend of mine, and two, he's on our school board. He's our moderate voice on the school board, thank goodness. And I said, this is what's going on. He said, Amy, this is what you tell parents. Number one, in order to show a Prager University or any video, it has to go to the principal first. If the principal does say yes, number two, the thing that needs to happen is the teacher must send out permission slips. If the permission slips are not sent out, that's a problem for us in the school system. So it has been brought to the attention of our new superintendent at Sarasota, and that teacher has been pulled aside. I don't know what they did. I didn't ask. I just needed to stop, right? So I want you to know you have tools in our system if you're hearing things about inappropriate material that is very, not in that moderate space and not sticking to the, like I said before, the what of teaching. So that is a tool that you have, and do not be afraid to speak up. Matter of fact, if you don't speak up, that is not helpful either. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
So first of all, I want to reinforce what Amy said, that children, especially very young children, are significantly affected by their parents' response. If their parents respond I'm not talking about during some kind of a traumatic event, but following, if parents respond in a calm, collected fashion, the children themselves, doesn't even matter what they've seen, what they've experienced, the children themselves will become calm. As Amy said, one of the most important things, especially for the younger kids, is, am I safe and who's going to take care of me? And the minute that is a question that's answered just by some kind of an everyday routine being established, then that positively influences the child themselves. For older children, the issue that Amy pointed out as well with the social media, it's a major issue. It's very nice to say, okay, stay off social media, but as you all know, the minute that you tell a teen stay off anything, they immediately go on it. And so the one thing that we can do is to try and have conversations with them about what they're actually seeing, and maybe even watch some of the videos with them in order to be able to translate some of the images, or to try and say to them, okay, this is something that there's also a chance that it's actually fake news. This has been one of the major problems. You've probably heard about that. The social media has been inundated with with videos that aren't even they incorrect. So and that's a major problem that we're trying to deal with. And this is also, I'm talking to you about things that we actually are talking to our children about in Israel as well. Okay, the children that are from the center of the country. Look, I'll tell you something. Everybody's been affected in Israel to one degree or another, even if it's just missiles being aimed at us. Okay, the missiles have been coming. Now they've come from the north, and they've come from the south, and they're coming from the north. Right? It's an amazing experience. Like, we're really getting to know our safe rooms. And the other thing is that it's to such a degree that yesterday we got a text from the army telling the whole of the country to go immediately into the safe room, but there weren't any sirens or anything, and it was a mistake. Okay, like this is just the stuff that's going on here at the moment. So what we're trying to do is just have conversations with the children and saying to them, when we hear the siren, we go into the safe room, we're giving, I'm actually just repeating in a different way everything that Amy spoke to you about, right? We have conversations with children, age-appropriate conversations about what things that they're dealing with at the moment. So in Israel, it's one thing. In the States, it's going to be something else. And what Amy ended with, asking the kids what they're going through. What do they know? What are they dealing with? Those kind of just regular questions are really very, very good, because then you can respond. If you can have these little conversations with the kids and grandkids, you'll know where they're at, and you'll know how to respond. Which are the children that you should be looking at more closely are high anxiety children, or children that have undergone some kind of traumatic event in the past. And by traumatic event, I don't necessarily mean something as horrendous as what we're going through, a war like in Israel, but I'm talking about a car accident. I'm talking about hospitalizations of themselves, of a parent being away from home at this point in time. Out of the ordinary events that might make this specific child more sensitive. And then those are the children that sit down, have a chat with them, right? And short chats, not long, but multiple conversations, not just a one-off conversation. One of the other question was, are there any lessons learned from previous periods of terrorist attacks? Well, one of the things that as health professionals we're dealing with is that we used to dealing with all various different kinds of traumatic events, but they over very quickly. Mm. This is the first time that we've had to deal with an ongoing event that is impacting so many people. But the thing about, so we are actually relearning how we should be coping, how we as mental health professionals should be coping with the situation. And we're actually retraining ourselves. We've been getting, the people that have been talking to the more senior psychologists in my department, or the national department, have been people that have actually been working in the Ukraine, because they've had more experience. The Trauma Coalition from Israel has been in the Ukraine as well, and so they had experience dealing with these ongoing events. So it's actually from out of Israel. The information, the Israeli information, is coming back into Israel in order to help us now.